fun to be out there, fun to be a part of, us winning games. And I've talked at length about how I've, been feeling over the years, and I feel better now at 39 than I did when I was 29. And it was just, I think due to a lot of things. So I feel like I'm in a good routine, and if I play a game like yesterday, I feel like by Wednesday practice, I'm, geared up and ready to go.
This is going to be good. That was Tom Brady saying he feels better now than he did at 29. They say 30 is the new 20, folks. Will Kane in the house. Good to see you for this conversation.
Good to see all you folks.
Thank you for joining us. This one's going to be fun. Max, I'd like to come to you, my friend.
Yes.
Would you still stand by your statement at this point, after hearing Brady's comments, that he feels better now at 39, that he will be falling off a cliff sooner than later?
Of course. And I said in the next 18 months at the time, because no one plays well at 41. I left out Warren Moon, who had one very good season. That's the only player in the history of football to have a good season at 41. It was something less than his very best, but it was a good season. He passed for 3,600 yards back then, 25 touchdowns, 16 interceptions. Not exactly an MVP season, though he went to the Pro Bowl, and I think he won Pro Bowl MVP that year. But he was something less than an MVP, but a good player. That's the best 41-year-old season ever. Ever. That's it. That's the only one. Now, I mentioned Brian Burke's study, who now works for ESPN, from 2014, where he talked about, and the reason I describe it as a cliff, and when I went to research, maybe there are underlying things that warn you, hey, the cliff is coming. In fact, Brian Burke's research said, no, there are no warnings. There are no warning signs. The guys are cruising along at very high altitudes. They can do this forever. They fall off without warning. Now, an interesting point that Burke brought up is that maybe natural variance in performance can explain it, that, no one stays at the same level every year all their careers, so sometimes you go down, sometimes you go up, but when a player goes down at 40, 41 years old, the assumption by everyone, including the player, is, oh, they must be done. And considering it's a tough sport, and they usually have a lot of money by then, if they made it that long, they decide to retire. Whatever the case may be, I was saying the same thing about Peyton Manning a couple of years ago, and before everyone says, well, of course he had the surgery. Yeah, right. But I'm talking about when he was throwing his 55 touchdowns. Oh, he could do this forever. Peyton could go till 45. Look at this. No, guys. He's heading for a cliff. No, the next year he was on pace to do the same thing. Wound up with 39 because he started falling off because the injuries started adding up. And then, sure enough, there went the cliff, and he went falling off like every player, including Brett Favre, including everyone who ever lived, who played the position. Tom Brady is cruising along at an incredibly high altitude. He's my pick for greatest quarterback of all time. He will be 40 years old in August.
Trying to couch it.
Here comes the... I know you aren't talking about letting someone else speak.
Yes, I am. Actually,
Go
yes,
ahead,
I am. I promise you, if there was a clock, you dominate it. Trust me.
Can we get a clock?
Okay, let's get a clock.
Go ahead.
Let's get a clock.
I'm up.
Go ahead, Will.
I thought I was a deciding vote between this epic battle between you two.
Oh. No, go ahead.
No, it's you.
Oh, you want me to make this rebuttal? You're going to let me take the reins here, Stephen A. Let me show you what I'm up
Yes.
against, by the way. I sit down here at the table. You're off in L.A., and look what I'm faced with. This. Can you see that, Stephen A? That
is a list of all 40-year-old quarterbacks.
This is Max's spreadsheet of all the quarterbacks he's ready to throw down here today.
Yeah. Right.
I don't need it. I don't need it.
Right, because you're not going to talk about facts.
I'm going to tell you about facts.
I don't need it, but notice he kept it over there. Now he's referring to it. Go ahead.
By the way, Will, before you speak, I'm proud of the shirt, tie, jacket combination. This is the second week in a row. I'm very, very proud of you. Very proud. You're getting there.
My spot on this show is entrenched firmly between you two, Stephen A., because about 30 seconds before we went on air, Max made fun of my shirt.
Here's
what I'm curious about with this spreadsheet. Is George Blanda on here?
Why are you referring to my spreadsheet? That's what I want to know that you just mocked.
George Blanda played till he's 48 years old. You very kindly pointed out Warren Moon, Vinny Testaverde's in that range as well, Doug Flutie. These guys all played well into their 40s. Now, your contention is that there's a cliff, that Brady's going to hit this cliff. Well, all due respect to that spreadsheet, Max, that's no great insight. That's how things go in this world.
Right.
Failure.
I thought it wasn't, and then everyone started arguing against me.
Failure, death, anything kind of happens suddenly. Things go bad, they go bad quickly. The question is when, and this is the thin limb you're out on. Specifically saying soon and in the next 18 months. Nothing about Tom Brady has told you should rely on historical precedent. Nothing. Everything from the start of his career has said he's breaking historical precedent. Lowest rated quarterback to have this kind of career, lowest drafted quarterback to have this kind of career, to play this late in his career. Sure. Everything he's done says throw everything out the window, including, by the way, that he's reinventing how you take care of your body. All these other guys you point out, they don't eat like Brady, they don't exercise like Brady, he keeps muscle pliability, that's his main thing. My man eats 80% vegetables and grains, Max. He won't touch a tomato.
Well, in that case, he'll be great at 50.
He won't touch a tomato because he's worried about inflammation. Yeah. This guy is prepared to play later than anybody you've ever seen.
So what you're saying is, because Brady presents you with the most evidence that maybe he could be the first quarterback ever to be elite at 41, therefore, it's actually a better than 50-50 proposition that it's going to happen, because you're right when you identify. All I'm really saying is everyone gets old. And by the way, at that position, here's the age at which they get old, and people want to argue with me.
One last point. These statistics always exist until they don't.
Right.
No NFL rushing champion had ever won the Super Bowl until Emmitt Smith did. We always have these stats until they're gone. And what I would suggest to you, Tom Brady, is going to be the moment of truth for your
Tom Brady will break the odds.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Stephen A., get in here. Stephen A.
He has the same coach, the same system. On top of it all, you could barely touch the quarterback in this day and age, and he takes care of his health. To me, Mac's position is utterly ridiculous. I've been saying this. I can't believe he's got me agreeing with Will Cain of all people. But I have no choice in this matter, because Will Cain is absolutely right when he points out the stuff that he pointed out. Eating right, taking care of himself, got the supermodel wife. I mean, he's got it all. And you know, listen, happy wife, happy life. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, he's living large. And we all know, and keep this in mind, Max Kellerman, this is the part where I got you, and I hope you. And I want y'all to put me up on the split screen, because I got Max here. I mean, Max, there is no way you can get around what I'm about to say to you. It's going to blow you away more than anything that I have ever said. Are you ready?
Yes.
Are you ready for this, Max?
Yes, I'm ready. I'm ready too. This is going to be good.
I am not married, but you are. The power of stress, the power of happiness elevates people. Stay with me here. You are a very, very happy man. Every time you walk in with those eyes of yours, you just look beautiful. I mean, it's not just the beautiful daughters, it's the beautiful wife. Everything. Am I lying, Mollywood?
Compliments on this show than I do at home.
Does this guy rave? Does this guy, or does he not rave about his wonderful wife and family every single day? So guess what? That makes you happy. And when you are happy and healthy, stay with me, Will, as well.
I'm here.
This is something that ultimately stretches your lifespan in a lot of different ways.
True.
You're healthier. You're feeling good. Your spirit is up. The whole bit.
Wait. But I just want to complete this metaphor really quick. See, so Max is happy and healthy at home, and you're not? Is that what you're saying? You were the other end of that spectrum.
That explains why I win all the debates on this show.
Is that why we're elevated?
I must confess to you, I'm a happy man, but it's nothing compared to how happy I intend to be. Y'all lives are the way that they are. I'm going this way.
Oh, we peaked.
You know what I'm saying? I'm all right. I'm okay. It's coming. It's coming. Life is getting better. It's closing in on me. It's closing in.
The 48-year-old's peaked.
I have no. You know what?
No. I'm sorry. The younger men have peaked. The 48-year-old's on the rise.
Because he waited to get
That's
married.
right.
Yep.
That's right. Well, you know what? Hey, listen. Some guys had to be older when they were younger. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
A lot of things.
Yep.
That's all.
And it's all going to happen, the fairy tale. Greg Hardy is making the move to mixed martial arts. The controversial former Dallas Cowboys defensive end has decided to put his football career on hold to pursue MMA. MMAfighting.com has learned. Hardy, who does not have an extensive martial arts background, has been training for several months in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And according to his team, several promotions have already expressed interest in signing him. I'd like to know which promotions those are. Stephen A., your reaction?
I'm scared, to be quite honest with you. This is a guy, played at Mississippi. We know he played in Carolina. We know he was a big-time player before, obviously, his transgressions, something he's denied despite a judge on a bench trial in North Carolina, convicting him of assault and beyond. The fact of the matter is that he seems to be an unstable individual. Now, when you talk about MMA, whether it's MMA or whether it's boxers or anybody in a pugilistic sport, I have profound respect for them, not just because of their abilities, Max, to actually fight, but also the dedication that it requires in order to be great, and more importantly, the discipline. And the thing that scares me about Greg Hardy is that I actually believe that he's somebody that whose discipline I can't trust. I can look at guys in the MMA, and I've met a lot of those fighters, and I've met a lot of guys that obviously are boxers, as obviously you have, Max. And no matter what they are in the ring, when they step away from it, they understand who they are and how that stuff has to be restrained, because essentially they're licensed weapons physically because of what their abilities are. And we have questions as to whether or not Greg Hardy can be somebody to exercise that level of discipline. So it's one thing when you're playing football and you struggle to curtail and harness your violence. It's another thing entirely when now you're engaging in a sport where you have a license to assault folks and you're hoping that will be enough. But I must confess to you, when I heard this, and I just heard about the story a few minutes ago, which is why we automatically incorporated and implemented it into this show, my primary concern is, well, now he's going to focus on fighting, which means he's going to become a more skilled fighter, which means that the probability is there that he'll become even more violent. And if that happens, how much of a danger will he be? I hope I'm wrong. You know, I believe in second chances, and you just hope that people fly straight and get themselves on the right track and do the kind of things that they need to do to move forward and become productive and model citizens in our society. But to have questions or trepidation about that when it comes to this particular individual, and to know that he's going to be harnessing, improving upon those violent skills even more so, I got to admit, it kind of makes me a little bit scared.
My mind goes to, why are these promotional companies lining up to sign him? And I think the answer is that whether or not it's fair to Greg Hardy that he's perceived as someone who's evaded justice or who's unstable, in fact, that's how he's perceived by many, and not without reason. These promotional companies, it seems to me, are lining up, well, of course, because he's famous. No, it's not just because he's famous. It's because you will attract a certain amount of attention from people who are rooting against him, who he's the heel, who want to see him punished for his transgressions or perceived transgressions. He wasn't actually convicted. So the question is, how good will he be as a fighter? Like, will he actually get his comeuppance? And I'm here to tell you that if that's what you're rooting for, that's what you're going to get. He will get his comeuppance in the octagon. Or in MMA, because what we found, look, this is the way let's take the UFC, for example, because that's the brand name in MMA. UFC started before Zuffa bought it. Originally, it was a high concept idea. It was, who wins, the judo guy or the karate guy, the kung fu guy or the boxer? And there was actually an answer to it. The answer was the Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy wins. Royce Gracie beat everybody pretty early on, won a bunch of them in a row. And then finally, American wrestlers and others realized if we can have enough of a ground game to stay out of submission holds, hyperextend limbs, and so they tap out or else choke windpipes and stuff like that, affect someone's breathing. If we could just stay out of those holds and hit back and grind them down, ground and pound, we can compete. And from this has emerged a much more homogenous kind of fighting style that leads to success in MMA. But I would say, even for the big guys, you've got to be able to handle yourself on the ground. You need, in order to have lasting power, to staying power, you need either a Brazilian jiu-jitsu background or a wrestling background, neither of which, to my knowledge, Greg Hardy has. Right. So if you're looking to see him get his comeuppance in MMA, I think you're going to see it.
So that's basically what you're saying. For those that can't stand him, for those that are rooting against him, this might be the perfect remedy because the comeuppance that he did not receive in the legal system, in a lot of our eyes, you believe he's going to receive that in the UFC.
Not at first, because if these promotional companies are going to spend a lot of money on him because they think he will draw attention, they will protect him at first. Early on, he'll be put in against opponents who he can beat. But before too long, if he can even get through that phase, he's going to have to fight some real fighters, and at 285, he's going to have to fight some real big fighters with wrestling or jiu-jitsu backgrounds, and then it's going to be a wrap.
Well, for me, that might be the case. I guess what I'm thinking about is that somewhere along the way, in order to prepare yourself just to walk into the octagon, you're going to be training and making yourself even better, at a particularly violent sport like that. And if you can't harness your behavior and your discipline off the football field or outside of the octagon, then that makes you even more of a weapon than you were before.
That's a point well taken.
Supposedly you were doing damage.
That's a point well taken. It's a serious thing. It's a real consideration, and hopefully the discipline of fighting will help him bring discipline in his personal behavior.
I hope so, because the only thing I want to see him fighting first is his demons. You heard these guys talking about Greg Hardy's move to MMA, but now we want to hear from you. Do you want to see Hardy as an MMA fighter? Go on Twitter, vote. We'll share those results a little later.